Alright, I think it's no debate that the science class in the 7-star pool is by far the best. There's just so many good champions in the science class for the 7-star crystal, and yeah, it is just, I think, the best way to start off this 7-star ranking list, right? So yeah, we're going to start off with science today, then we're going to go into skill, which is probably the worst one, ironically, but yeah, it should be a pretty fun time. And let's just jump right into it, man. So number 6, we have Spider-Man Classic. And this one, I was really debating on how to rank Spider-Man and Spider-Gwen because I feel like they are the two worst of the batch. But I'm gonna give it to Spider-Man here because he really needs to be awakened, right? And that, while we're at a point where 7 stars aren't the most rare, that's just for the very top percent of players, right? For the usual players, if you pull Spider-Man Classic and he's your first 7-star, it's gonna kind of hurt, right? Because, he just really wants that awakened ability. But if you pull Spider-Gwen as your first 7-star, she can just put in some work unawakened even. So that's why I think Spider-Man is the worst science 7-star for now, because he does really want the signature ability, and if you don't have it, I feel like he will be worse than Spider-Gwen, for example. So yeah, Spider-Man Classic, I feel like he is pretty good when awakened because he has some decent damage output. His utility is pretty strong as well because he has access to Decelerate and also a lot of taunts and also some suppression as well. He has a very decent kit, right? But to unlock it, you really want to have him awakened, right? So yeah, I think he's pretty decent. He's not completely unplayable as an unawakened champion, but he's still, I think, is the worst of the science batch, unawakened. Even awakened though, he'd just go to number 5, to be fair. He wouldn't really go anywhere past Spider-Gwen. So yeah, Spider-Man Classic, in my opinion, probably the worst pool for a first science 7-star. And number 5 is quite obvious. I've already mentioned it. It is Spider-Gwen. And Spider-Gwen is really, really interesting because I feel like she still has some use for sure as a 7-star. Her slow is still one of the best in the game because you drop a heavy attack and it is just there. Just like that, she has one of the best slows in the entire game, and her damage output is pretty fine as well. And I feel like she can just do some work for any roster, right? Because she has a really easy slow access, her damage output is pretty good, and not only that, her Enervate is pretty strong as well, right? And she has some defensive use, you can probably trap someone with her evades, but not the best defender out there for sure. Still better than Spider-Man Unawakened as a defender. But overall, just a pretty decent champion. Not at the level of the next 4 characters, but still a pretty good workhorse. She'll put in some work for you for sure. If she's your first 7-star, you'll be happy because she can do a lot of things for you, right? So yeah, Spider-Gwen, pretty decent, solid kit overall, pretty good damage output, just not at the highest tier of the science class, right? But still not too bad. I know she's number 5 here, but that doesn't make her bad, right? It just means that the other 4 are just really, really strong. And speaking of the other 4, number 4, we have Joe Fixit, and this guy is kind of like the Spider-Man situation, except not as bad, because Joe Fixit Unawakened is still very, very strong. His damage output is quite berserk. He has a lot of damage output, man. And he also has pretty fast utility access as well with his Petrify, his Saurian if you want. He has a lot of different nice capabilities. His heal, his healing's pretty strong as well. But yeah, the damage output is probably the biggest thing, right? His damage output is just very strong and very fast as well. So Joe Fixit, he has a lot of use in Battlegrounds and whatnot, but the thing is, if you want the best Joe Fixit, he does want Sig 1. But to be fair, Sig 1 isn't that demanding, right? If you pull him, let's say back to back, I would be very, very happy, right? Because he's a very strong champion. His damage output is really, really good. And I imagine at 7-star rank 2, he will be just a monstrous Battlegrounds champion, right? But not only that, he's just a very good quester as well. He fits a lot of science tropes, having Petrify, having access to poison immunity, having access to just a lot of debuffs as well. So yeah, Joe Fixit, a very strong champion overall, but just keep in mind, if you pull him for the first time, he might be a bit underperforming than the 7-star awakened version, but he still will do a lot of work for you as an unawakened 7-star still. So yeah, Joe Fixit, number 4 here, and now we have the top 3, and these top 3 are all really, really strong. I feel it's the bottom 2 right there, in their own tier, then Joe Fixit's in the middle, and then these 3 are just in their own tier. Actually, no. The number one is in his own tier, but you know who it is already. But the top three. So number three, we have the Overseer Maestro, and this guy is really strong, right? You know, he has access to a lot of science tropes, like access to taunt, access to a lot of physical burst damage, and just having poison immunity, and just being immune to nullify, fate, seal, stagger, all that stuff. He has a lot of those, like, you know, common science things. And what makes him who he is, in my opinion, is the signature ability. Because whenever you have those immunities and they trigger, you just supercharge your ramp up, right? So I feel like that's what makes him insanely, like, good. Like, if this was an Awakened, like, list, it kind of is at times, but it also isn't. I feel like he would be number 2 probably, but Overseer Maestro, still very strong unawakened. He has a lot of damage output. He still has those immunities, right? But when he's awakened, he takes advantage of those immunities. So just keep that in mind. Like, unawakened Overseer, still very strong, like I said, but I feel like the 6-star rank 5 6200 version is a bit better than the 7-star rank 1 unawakened. I mean, obviously, right, because of the stats, but even 7-star rank 2, I want to say. So, I don't know, man. I feel like he's still very strong, but if you have the 6-star version and you want to play with the Overseer, maybe consider the 6-star 6200, but then again, the 7-star still have use for you for sure. Like, at rank 2, he's probably a massive tank as well for, like, defense. So, yeah, Overseer Maestro, I think he's really good, but there is a lot of debate over the 7-star and the 6-star version because of that signature ability, right? But these next 2 champions, there's just no debate that these guys as 7 stars, I mean, these champions at 7-star, because one of them is a girl, they are just the best at their 7-star level. Like, their awakened abilities are good, but nowhere near as good enough to make them, like, warrant ranking the 6-star over the 7-star version. So speaking of those top 2 champions, number 2 we have Titania, and this girl is just a powerhouse and a half, man. Her damage output is pretty dang strong, but that's not where I'm sold. I'm sold with just how good the Haymaker is. The Haymaker allows her to do some really crazy things, like, you know, just ignore damage flat out, tank special attacks, tank, like, you know, direct damage coming towards you, like the harvest and whatnot. All those, like, little bits and pieces that she can do with the Haymaker is just so strong. But not only that, her damage output is also just pretty dang sweet as well. And so you have, like, those 2 pairings, as well as, like, you know, some other tropes like buff immunity, having a lot of debuffs to access. And not only that, her debuffs, while they are really good, if, like, the opponent purifies, she doesn't care, because her Furies are just triggered when the debuffs are placed on the opponent, not when, like, they're staying on the opponent. So that's why she's really good versus, like, you know, Korg, Atuma, Kingpin, any of those Struggers, right? She's really good against them. So, like, that's why Titania just has a lot of use for me, because she can't even be stopped by skill characters, so there isn't really stopping her too much, and there are just, like, no downsides to this champion. She is a monster in war as well, and, like, a crazy good battlegrounds attacker. She just has use literally everywhere. She's a good quester as well. Like, this champion is just fantastic, man. And I feel like if the number 1 champion wasn't as crazy as he is, she would be number 1 by, like, a mile, man. So yeah, Titania, very strong champion. I feel like she's easily top 5 science at this point. Like, I think it goes, Scorpion. Okay, Scorpion and Torch are tied for me. That's just my personal opinion, though. I feel like they're tied still. And then probably our number 1 spot at number 3, then Titania. Because, yeah, they are just both really strong champions, and she is a powerhouse, especially at rank 2, right? But yeah, now it's time for number 1, and I feel like the mystery here is just really, really big. You will never guess who it is. I'm kidding. Of course, it's the Hulk. Who else could it be? The Hulk is one of the craziest champions in the entire game, in my opinion. When he first dropped, like, when the buff just dropped, I didn't really think too much of him, because I just didn't really see it, right? But 7 stars have done a lot for this game, and the biggest thing that it did is open my eyes to some champions, and the Hulk is one of those champions. When he came out as a 7-star, like, when he was announced, I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. I think he's pretty good, right? I didn't think he'd be the best 7-star, and I was just wrong on all accounts, because this guy is the best 7-star. I've said it before, but I can just say it again why I think he is the best. First of all, his damage output is just unreal. Like, he takes some fights in just the silliest amount of times, right? Like, 30 seconds, 25 seconds, he can do it, right? And at rank 2, it's just even crazier. Like the Hulk, his damage ceiling is just unfair, I feel like. And not only that, when you have damage that good, but not only the damage, but the control as well, that's when things just seem a bit a bit unfair because his control is also just really insane. You can just lock the opponent down with like an SP1 for like the rest of the fight, and it is just unfair. He can take Hulklings, Rentras with that strategy, and it is just a bit insane, man, because you just don't have to worry about anything because the opponent can't do anything. So you can just keep locking them down, and there's just no worry whatsoever. And that's why he's just like one of the craziest Battlegrounds characters, because you have one side of him that is just like a massive damage dealer that just is insanely fast. But then you have the other side where it's just like, okay, I can just log down this fight and they can't do anything, right? So you have that like massive control character as well. So you have both of these like sides of Hulk that just combine, and that's why he is just the best 7-star, because that combination is just a bit unfair, I feel like. So yeah, the Hulk, he is just crazy, man. His versatility is just off the charts. His damage output also off the charts. His control also off the charts. This man is just off the charts, I feel like. And yeah, like if this was a best 7-stars list, like in all classes, he'd be number 1 still. But this is just science, and he's still number 1, obviously, right? But yeah, that's my list for today. The Hulk, he wins the science class, obviously, but Titania, also very powerful. Overseer, also really good. And the bottom 3 as well are still pretty solid characters, especially Joe and Spider-Gwen. But OG Spider-Man does want to be awakened for sure, but he's still not too bad, even unawakened. So yeah, I feel like this class is by far the best one because they just have so many different like powerhouses in this like one class. So yeah, I love the science 7-star pool, man. I wish that it gets like even more upgraded, which it will, because you know, Spot, Mr. Negative, who is already just so crazy good, and Silk as well, who looks pretty dang fantastic. So yeah, this class is only getting stronger, man, and that is just surreal to me, right? But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this list, and let me know your list as well, right? And yeah, that's about it for me.